up and welcome to Cars Yeah, show number 2545. Be prepared to be inspired.
This is Cars Yeah, where you'll enjoy interviews with inspiring automotive enthusiasts. I'm founder Mark Green, and I've handed the keys to this car over to Ginger Baker Rust, who's a lifelong enthusiast. Ginger's here to provide you with a fuel injection of automotive inspiration. So get in, sit down, and buckle up and get ready for a fun ride here on Cars Yeah.
Hello, inspiring automotive enthusiasts, and welcome to Cars Yeah. Today, we are coming to you from the beautiful city of Detroit, Michigan, Motown, with an outstanding guest whose name is Johnny D, the Motivational Cowboy. Hello, Johnny. Welcome to Cars Yeah. Do you have it in gear, and are you ready to release the clutch?
Ginger, I am fired up. I'm ready for this.
All right. Well, Johnny, please share something about yourself that most people may not know.
Ginger, that is a great question. And I'm going to tell you a secret that most people don't know about me. And that is, you're going to be shocked yourself probably, but I am a very, very shy guy.
Oh,
You wouldn't think that because of what, we do for a living, but I am very, very shy. It's like I don't speak until I'm spoken to. I don't run around, telling everybody to have an outstanding day. So that's something that people probably don't know that I am. And I'm a very shy guy.
well, I know from, like I said, we were just talking about the fact that we've known each other almost a decade and running in the motorsports circles. And actually, I'm not surprised by that a little bit because I've seen you do your gig. And then, see you just kind of like sneak off into the corner.
People call me a ghost sometimes. They're like, you do your thing and you're gone. It's so funny. Yeah. I've always been that way. I don't need to be the center of attention. I love, doing what I do. And yeah. So yeah, I'm kind of a shy guy.
Oh, that's cool. And again, when most people learn what you do, especially the listeners on the show that maybe aren't familiar with you and find out that you're this like marvelous, outstanding, like amazing, motivational speaker and author and all these things, they're not going to believe that you're shy. I guarantee you. Let me tell them a little bit more about you. Johnny D, known as the Motivational Cowboy, is a nationally recognized speaker, author, and host of the popular Outstanding Life podcast, where he shares powerful stories and interviews with inspiring guests. For nearly 25 years, Johnny has been a trusted voice for General Motors and Team Chevy, interviewing NASCAR drivers, IndyCar drivers, and celebrities at major events across the country. With his signature energy, humor, and authenticity, Johnny D delivers a compelling message that inspires audiences to live the outstanding life every day. He has authored multiple motivational books that encourage readers to live with purpose, passion, and positivity. Johnny, let's go a little deeper in the corner and share with us more about your outstanding journey into the motorsports world. How did all this get started?
That is a great question, Ginger. And I would love to sit there and say that I've always wanted to be in the automotive industry, but it's something I fell into. Literally, I was speaking at a plant, and I want to say it was in Kansas or Texas. I don't even remember. It was over almost 27 years ago. And this gentleman came up to me afterwards and said to me, he said, that was an incredible presentation. He goes, I need a personality like you to go out and MC an event. Now, again, I didn't even know what an MC was back then. We didn't have the internet. We didn't have Google. He says, I was like, well, great. He goes, well, what's your fee? I didn't know. I don't know what a fee is for doing something like this. And I said, well, what is it for? He says, for NHRA drag racing. I just need you to go out there and talk to the drivers and just be you. So what I did was I went back home. I told him, I said, give me your card. I'll call you in a couple of days and I'll give you some numbers.
Yeah.
But I called a bunch of different agencies in the Detroit local area saying that I was a guy looking to hire an MC out of state. And so I started jotting down all the numbers and I called them back and I'm like, here, this is my fee. This is what I need. This is what I want. And he says, okay. And so, yeah, it was 2 years into my motivational business in speaking that I fell into. I was with Pontiac back then. Now we're going back some time. So I was with Pontiac Motorsports first, and then after they went away, Chevrolet picked me up.
Oh, that's great. That's great. How did you get to the point that you start, I mean, because you're at so many NASCAR races. And like I said, I mean, I've traveled in the NASCAR circuit for years, but I've seen you at NASCAR races, IndyCar races. I mean, you've done a whole lot more than just NHRA.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, it went from there. That was my very first one.
Yeah.
And then it turned into, well, hey, we need you to go to this event. Oh my God, that was incredible. We need you to go to this event. This was great. Because there wasn't really MCs back then.
Other than MC Hammer, right?
Yeah. So yeah, I was like the first one to do something cool out there at these events. And that just led into, doing some really cool stuff. I mean, when I go out to my man cave and I see pictures of me being with Dale Jr., Jeff Gordon, Jimmy Johnson, Ryan Newman, all these guys, and you get to know them and they trust you. That's been the coolest thing when a driver can come to your stage and trust that you are going to do everything you can that day to make them look good, make them sound good. I never know what I'm getting.
Yeah. Oh,
when you bring your driver to me, I don't know what kind of day they're having. They get up on stage and I got to do my thing, and I got 15 minutes with them and I got to have fun with them.
Right.
And so that has been challenging at times. So,
well, I managed Ryan Newman for a few years, and when we would schedule things to do with you, I always knew he was in good hands with you. I always felt sorry for you because I wasn't sure what you were going to get. Because, these guys are so unpredictable in what they're going to say or do, or depending on the mood that they're going to be in that day. So.
Yeah, that's the biggest compliment is when PR people say, I never have to worry about them going to you. Never have to worry about it. Or when the driver says, man, I miss coming here. I miss seeing you. That's the biggest compliment in the world is, I get to do what people dream about doing. I mean, do you realize, and I get paid for it.
Yeah.
So imagine all the people out there that would love to sit next to their favorite driver and ask them questions for free. And we get to do it for a living. So it's been incredible. And I hope I answered your question. But Ginger, I got a question for you.
Okay.
You asked me a question earlier. You started the show off with, what's something that, people don't know about you? And I just want to put it out there to your listeners that I don't know if your listeners know this about you. Or maybe I should ask you, do your listeners know that you are this incredible singer? Do they know that, Ginger?
I mentioned it, I think, like one time on an interview when I first interviewed on Cars Yeah, but I just kind of mentioned it. Not a lot of people know this. No.
You sang Amazing Grace and brought tears to my eyes. That's how incredible you are. So I encourage everybody listening right now to go to your Facebook page and find that old video, or maybe you should repost it.
It's on YouTube.
Of you singing at that church. And I believe it was Amazing Grace. Am I right or wrong?
Yes, I actually wrote a version of the Amazing Grace lyrics to the House of the Rising Sun melody.
Yeah.
And I did it as a ballad. And some of my family members and friends had asked me to post it because it had been on Facebook on just my private page. And it got like over 10,000 views. I mean, people shared it, and it was just on my private stuff. And then people that wanted to see it that I didn't really necessarily want on my private page, so I posted it to YouTube. And so it's out there on YouTube on Ginger Baker Rust and Amazing Grace. But yeah, not a lot of people know that. It was just really just put out there for other people to be able to enjoy if they wanted to. And it was just done. It was raw. It wasn't, it was recorded on a cell phone. There was no, there was no anything and making it sound better, but it was just something that I had.
That's the cool part. That was the cool part about the whole thing. You just got up there and did it.
Yeah. And I will share with you actually, because I know you'll appreciate this. When I did that, I was actually performing at a Celebrate Recovery meeting at a church, and it was part of worship. And so I was leading the worship team at the time, and it was, if any people aren't familiar with Celebrate Recovery, it's about people that have hurts, habits, and hangups, and where people go to, get help, or just they, need a little extra care, or need a little extra motivation. And I had sang in church growing up. And then with the church that I had belonged to at the time, they had this program, and part of that was the worship service. So I would come and I lead the worship service for those people.
I hate to put you on the spot like this, but I mean, maybe you should give us a little bit of it now.
Oh my gosh. I don't think I can. I don't think I can. I don't know. He may have to edit this out, but
Ginger, I'll just stop you right here because this would be something really good because he could tweak everything right now.
exactly.
And that's why I just did it because I know what's capable. So
Well,
we'll just take
I'll
that
do
off.
I'll do a little bit of the first verse.
Yeah.
Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now I am found. Was blind, but now I see. Oh, yeah. That's a little bit of Southern gospel.
There you go. I love it. Ginger, thank you so much. You're incredible. You're incredible. And I just had to bring that up.
I cannot believe I just did that. This was not planned, everybody. This was absolutely not planned. So, yeah. But no,
you never know what we're getting.
I do. But no, that was I grew up singing in church, and that was the Southern gospel version. So
great job.
But all right. Now about me. I'm back to you. So Johnny, throughout your life, I know that there are people who are great inspirations. Would you share with us a key mentor who helped you be successful? And who's been the most influential person in your life?
That's another great question. And this is probably going to be a little bit different, Ginger. I was brought up with an incredible mom and dad. My dad was, you never realize how important your parents are until they're gone. Yeah. And you don't realize what your parents do for you until you're older, or maybe you have your own child. But I would say that it was my dad. He gave me my work ethic because in the very beginning of this business, I was broke for years. So when I say broke, I was broke. And my dad was always there for me. Not that I asked him to bail me out, but he was just there for me. My dad was one, too, that told me that I was completely an idiot for quitting, this incredible job to be a motivational speaker until he heard me speak for the very first time. Then he realized that I had a gift. So I would say my inspiration was my father, but there's always more than just one. And I would also say that it's my daughter. My daughter motivates and inspires me. Just having a child and being a great dad was very, very important to me. To this day, my daughter's, 32, 33 years old, and I still call her every day, tell her I love her, tell her that I'm proud of her. And I just want to, I've always believed that if I'm out there helping others become a better person, that I better work on that every single day for myself. So my dad and my daughter was and is, an inspiration. But now let's get back to people that are probably in the business that really motivated and inspired me. And this is something that you're going to think that I'm really crazy, but I used to watch, because when I first started, I wasn't the motivational cowboy. I was like a typical speaker. I was a suit and tie guy, and I had to find myself. And I love country music, obviously. And I would turn off Garth Brooks, like turn the volume completely down, and I would watch him on stage. And if you would see me on stage now, you would see a lot of Garth Brooks. I'm like a caged animal up on stage. That's why I always tell people, don't put me behind a podium. I need a wireless mic. The other one was Joel Osteen, the preacher. Now, I didn't want to preach like him, but I would turn the volume down and watch his stage presence. So I got that nice, calm, cool, collective stage presence. And that's when I learned how to be able to pause and not just talk and then move like Garth Brooks. And Garth Brooks can literally sell out a stadium. But I knew that I had blue eyes like Garth Brooks, and I know that they would pierce right through people. So I could look, and I pay attention to everybody in that room. And even if I can't see them because the lights are so bright on a stage, I know that I can just look a certain way and people feel like I'm talking to them. So I learned all these little things from Garth Brooks and Joel Osteen.
Well, it's interesting that you said that, because I've seen you on stage. And now that you say that, and of course, I've watched Garth Brooks and I've seen also Joel Osteen, and I can see that movement and the way that you look at people. And I'm the same when I sing or I'm talking to people you can't, people think they don't understand that when those lights are on, you can't even see the first row.
Exactly.
So like, I would just like look at people, but now I could see out past quite a ways, I mean, you can't see the people in front, but you can kind of see back. So I would kind of pinpoint like a 4-point look around the stage. Cause I'm like, I can't be caged behind a podium. Right. No way. I can't even be caged, period. Yeah. I absolutely see that. And watching you, and you've had such a natural movement and form, and you just, and you look and you pierce, and it's absolutely wonderful watching you and listening to you.
Thank you. I appreciate that. The biggest compliment is something as small as, doing an interview for a NASCAR driver, is when a fan afterwards comes up to you and says, I love your show. And I used to get like, not mad, but I used to be like, it's not a show, it's an interview. But I'm like, it is a show.
It's a show.
I am there to entertain. I'm there to tell jokes and, have fun with people. And I never understood that. When I understood that, it's when the magic really started happening, because it is a show to every fan. It's not about me. It's not really even about that driver. It's about that fan connecting with that driver and connecting with the company. I'm like the last one on the totem pole.
Right.
I don't have an ego. It's like, when people come up to me saying, great job, I'm like, me? Cool. All right. Thanks. Even though I'm the guy holding the microphone, it's not about me. It's about the company that hired me, the fan, and that driver.
What do you think has been the most interesting or memorable interview for you? I want to ask you first, the most interesting.
Good question. And man, I don't want to get in trouble. But they're not even driving anymore. But one of the hardest people,
I put you on the spot.
You got me. So one of the hardest ones was that I remember is I asked Danica Patrick one time a question. And I asked her, what I read on Wikipedia was that she graduated with a communications degree from the University of Pennsylvania. So I thought, what a great question. So the next day I asked her, I'm like, Danica, has that helped you in, dealing with your fans and dealing with sponsors? And she looked at me and she goes, I don't know where you get your information from, but I never even graduated high school. Yeah, real funny, Ginger, until the next week.
Yeah, you felt real small.
The next week I had her again. And that is like, we're talking years ago, but I know you remember this. James Hinchcliffe tweeted a picture of Danica's souvenir trailer, and it got rear-ended, and it was total. And he put, who's Danica going to blame this week? I thought it was funny. Somebody else told me that it was funny to ask the question. She didn't think it was very funny. And it turned into like a big thing. You know what I mean? And you have to be careful. But again, they're questions. It's live. Yeah. There's not an edit button. So I've learned the hard way to do the best I possibly can. But you never know what kind of mood that person's going to be in the day that you ask that question. Because one day it could be funny, and 5 minutes later, it is not funny.
Yeah. Yeah. And from being around Danica, I can tell you it was a lot of fun to interview her. So I can take up for you, and I can say that.
Yeah. I don't know if we want to put that in there or not, Ginger, but it is a great story. But another funny one was, I'll never forget. It was my first gig with Chevy, or one of the first ones. So we're going back years. And I was in Richmond, Virginia. And I didn't know my NASCAR people like I did my, NHRA back then and stuff like that. And I was with Pontiac, so I wasn't with Chevy, And I'll never forget, I had my little cue cards, and they were bringing up driver after driver. And it was in front of thousands of people, right, in Richmond at the Speedway there. And I'm like, all right, 3-time champion Jimmy Johnson. And Jamie McMurray came on stage. And I didn't know. And Jamie looked at me. He goes, well, I wish that I was a 3-time champion. And I looked, and nobody told me that Jimmy was late and Jamie was early. So my cue card said one thing, and I just went with it until I realized I was talking to the wrong guy.
Yeah. Yeah. Jamie's actually from Joplin, Missouri, which is right near where I grew up. So yeah, I watched him when he was a little kid race go-karts.
Yeah, and he was so much fun to interview. He would always, because you never know what the fans are going to do. You never know what they're going to do. They're drinking. They've been drinking for days. And there are some really funny stories about me interviewing some of these guys. Like I'll never forget, Jamie looked at me one time. This fan was in her pajamas, her silk pajamas, wearing a unicorn blow up on her head. And Jamie looked at me. He goes, "Did you stage this?" And she's just like, "Jamie, I love you, Jamie." And just one of those deals. It's there's some interesting things that happen from that stage, including helping people get married. I've helped several people, propose at the Chevy display. So that's been really cool too.
That's really cool.
I hope I'm answering your questions.
Oh, you're doing great.
You're making me think about all these like cool things that I've actually done that I forgot about.
No, and that's the whole thing. So I have to ask you, it always had to have been fun to interview Tony Stewart. Smoke.
Oh my! So funny story. This is great. You guys are gonna love this one. So I'll never forget. I was at Daytona International Speedway, and if you know Tony Stewart, if you know Smoke, he is late for everything. Everything. I was up on stage. Now you have to visualize this. I'm in front of thousands of people on the big stage, and Tony's late. So I'm just talking to the fans. I'm having fun with people. I'm telling stories. Well, this lady in the front was a little bit older, and she was standing in the front, and she had like an old flip phone. And she's like, "Will you be quiet? I am on the phone right now with my daughter-in-law, and she's about ready to have a baby. And all I want to do is say hi to Tony Stewart. Can you make that happen?" I go, "First of all, your daughter-in-law is not having a baby." So I grabbed her cell phone, I put it on speaker, and all I hear is push, push, push in front of thousands of people. And the baby was born. Oh Tony took the stage behind me, grabbed the microphone and says, "It's not mine."
Oh my gosh, that is classic Smoke. Classic Smoke, especially now that he just had a kid.
Yeah. I tell that story, and it was, you couldn't plan it any better. Another one with Tony, when you're interviewing drivers, a lot of times they have so many interviews that they have to do with that client. Well, Tony, I guess, owed Chevy some time. And one day I get these guys for between 12 and 15 minutes. 15 minutes goes by. 20 minutes goes by. 25 minutes goes by, and I'm looking and I'm sweating because Tony's the type of guy that if he doesn't like something, he's just going to walk off.
Oh, yeah, he does.
And I know that. So in my head, I'm trying to put a smile on the inside. I am dying. 30 minutes goes by, and they're like, "Okay, wrap it." They give me the cut sign, and I turn off the microphone. I said, "Tony," I said, "I am so sorry." I said, "I don't know what happened." He goes, "What are you talking about?" He goes, "I was coming up here for 2 episodes.
Oh.
Nobody told me."
Oh my gosh.
Tony knew about it. I didn't know about it. So I was sweating for 15 minutes thinking that he was going to kick my butt after the interview.
Because he would. Smoke was known to actually speak his mind. So
now Clint Boyer would literally just walk off. Like something would trigger him and he would just leave.
Yeah, but he has ADHD.
Well, okay, I didn't say that you did, but yeah, it was just all of a sudden it was like the interview would be going great, and everybody looking. There goes Clint.
Clint's one of those. Me talk to him, and then it'd be like squirrel, and he's going
100%. Yeah, there's been so. I mean, you're making me just go back in time, and there's been so many. Kevin Harvick was right. You know who was just incredible, and it's funny because I had him at early on was Junior. But when Junior really, when he got married, and he started going in the booth more, and so he has turned into an incredible storyteller, just incredible storyteller.
Oh, he absolutely has, and it's been fun to see the change. I mean, you were around in the Dale senior years though too.
Yeah, I was there when Dale died. I was with Pontiac back then, but yeah, that was one of those moments that you'll never forget.
I know that I don't know if you know this, but you've probably seen the picture. And of course, I think everybody in NASCAR knows, but not of the listeners. When that happened that day, of course, it was just devastating, of course, for everyone. But, back in Mooresville, North Carolina, where the race shop and everyone, was, I don't know if you've ever seen the picture, but all the way, there was no police escort or anything from Daytona back to Mooresville and coming up from the south to the north. And on the interstate, no one would pass his hauler.
Oh, wow.
There is a photo. There is a photo. There was no police escort, but it was his hauler. and the number 3 hauler. And there's a photo of somebody taking it of the line of traffic for, I mean, miles and miles and miles, and no one would pass the hauler on an interstate all the way from Daytona to Mooresville, North Carolina.
I didn't know that. Wow.
Yeah, that was an amazing thing. But
on the flip side of it, I love when new drivers come to the stage. And it's kind of like a running joke. It's like, okay, you're in school with Johnny D. We're going to, put you up there as much as possible. And when they first get there, it's like deer in the headlights, not even looking at anybody, head down. And then you see them at the end of the year having this great conversation and stuff like that. It just makes me feel good, even though I have nothing to do with it. But it's fun to watch them grow as a young man. Just telling that story, it reminds me of Ron Hornaday. One day, Ron, and another one, right? Ron will tell you what's on his mind, and he has no problem doing that. One day, again, right? I'm there to make that driver look good. You have to remember that the fans that I have this weekend, those fans are not going to be there next weekend. I can ask the exact same questions, and no one's going to ever know except for me and that driver, right? So I'm there to make them look good. So I get done with Ron one day. The next weekend, I ask him just a couple of the same questions. He goes like, you already asked me that last week. And I said, Ron, I'm here to make you look good. Give me something more to talk about. Then I will ask you more. But those fans right now don't know that I talked to you about that last week. And he got done. He was like, you're really smart, young man. And he goes, you're absolutely right. You know what I mean? So it's like one of those things. It's like there's a madness to what I do too. You know what I mean? I do my homework on every driver, just like I have the Indianapolis 500 coming up. I'm going to be interviewing a lot of those drivers. So there's a lot of homework there, because some of these guys just come in for that one race, and I have to know what's going on in their life and make it fun. So there's a lot of cool things, and you're making me feel like that I do a good job, because you're right. There is a lot of prep work that people don't see. No. They look at 15 minutes with their favorite driver, and that's it.
Yeah, they don't understand. I mean, even preparing for the podcast, like you have a podcast also, it's homework. And
100%.
It's absolutely homework. And then, because you don't want to, and even with editing, you still have like homework, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Let's talk about homework, but actually it's getting under the hood with a challenge a little bit. Please share with me a difficult challenge, a failure, obstacle that you faced, whether in your personal life or business, and tell me how you overcame that situation. What did you learn?
It would probably be that's another great question. When I think about that, the first thing that comes to my mind is so many people dream. So many people try to manifest what they want to really do for a living, but nobody really wants to put in the work. And I think it was quitting my full-time job as a marketing director for a Fortune 500 company and walking in and quitting and saying that I'm not coming back. And then just to put the work in the time. Some people say, don't burn bridges. I say, burn every bridge you possibly can. I go, because that way you can't go back to something you didn't even want anyways. And if you're going to dream something, then you better be able to put in the work to do it. And what I learned is that in this business, I've been professionally speaking for 25 years now, and I'll never, ever, ever do it just for the money. That's the biggest lesson I've ever learned, is when you do things because you love to do it. I will go speak at a charity event for nothing, and I'll go do a corporate event making a lot of money for that 1 hour talk. Like the podcast, my radio show, all these things I believe happened because I did things for the right reasons. I hope, Ginger, that answers your question in a nutshell, because it's not really one of those things that it's not fancy. It's just hard work, and we hear it all the time. Yeah. But if you're out there right now and you're dreaming about doing something, then you need to remember that you're going to have to put the time in. And there might be a time, if you didn't save enough like I did, then there's going to be some really tough times. But those tough times, I remember having a radio show as a motivational speaker. And this was back in the day of payphones and putting in my quarters. And literally, it was like I had to get my show done because I didn't have enough quarters in my pocket to pay for another couple minutes. And I'll never forget, at the end of one show, it said, please deposit 25 more cents. And everybody heard it. but I'll never forget those times. I'll never forget my first book was written on bar napkins at the corner bar when it was 50-cent beer night. Because that's the only time I could go to the bar and drink because I didn't have any money.
Oh, there you go. That's awesome. That's awesome. Oh, I love that. Let's talk about a bucket list. Please share with us what you'd still like to accomplish in this next chapter of life.
Ginger, I fulfilled my bucket list last year. And I've really, really thought about this question. Last year, there was two places I hadn't spoke. And that was Alaska and Hawaii was my last two. And last year, I went to Alaska and spoke at a bunch of villages out there and some high schools. And that was amazing. And then last December, after NASCAR season, I took my daughter to Hawaii. It was the most amazing thing. Ginger, it's great to have a bucket list, but I've done more in my life today than most people could ever dream of. Oh man, we talked about getting emotional. And I'm not saying that I don't want to do more things, but I'm grateful for all of the things that I've got to do. And I really, really gave this some thought. And I don't know if there is just one thing. I mean, I've spoken on stages all over the country. I guess international, if you call it going to Canada. Right now, my fourth book is coming out. I have the podcast. I do something. I make people happy for a living. I mean, that's the greatest gift in the world. I mean, that's a great question, but I don't know if I have a great answer for you. I hit my bucket list last year, and that's hitting all 50 states.
I think that's awesome. Have you ever thought about, I know you see you to Canada, but have you ever thought about or done any international, like some of the international races with FIA, or now there's NASCAR Euro,
I have not. And I thought to myself, when I saw this question, I thought to myself, if she comes back with me and makes me answer something or say something and I have to answer that, that's what it would be. It would be somebody booking me to go and speak outside the country. If it is at a race or if it's doing a big conference somewhere overseas, that would be great.
You would be fabulous. You'd absolutely be fabulous. All right, let's talk about a special vehicle story. Tell us about a truly special vehicle in your life. Share a great memory or experience you had with that vehicle.
Ginger, you have had over 2,500 shows, and I've heard a lot of them. And there are some people out there that have some incredible stories and in some incredible cars that I dream of. And, it's so cool to be able to say that you have those. But let me tell you something, Ginger. I didn't come up with money. My family didn't have money. My first car was the coolest car. And when I think of cars, I think of my 1980 Pinto. That's right, Ginger. I said a 1980 Pinto that my father bought from my aunt. And I would wash that thing every single day. I knew that my dad would work double shifts to make sure that me and my brothers had everything that we needed. And when my dad bought that car, I never took it for granted that it wasn't something else. It was mine. That brown 1980 Pinto, but it did have a nice flake to it there, Ginger. It was nice, and I'd vacuum it every other day. This thing was spick and span every single day. So that would be the memory that I have. Not what most people are thinking of right now, but it is that 1980 Pinto. And let me tell you something. I got hit. I didn't blow up, but my dad got it fixed. And again, I love that car. The other one, Ginger, was a 1981 Mercury Capri, a Black Magic Special Edition. Let me tell you something. That thing was so sweet, the stick shift, everything. I'll never forget. And then, you talk about a funny moment when you're on a date, when you're a young man having a cool car like that, you got the T-tops off and you're driving down the freeway and the car breaks down about an hour and a half away from your house. And you got to call your dad and say, come get me. And my dad didn't have a trailer or a truck, so he had to call his buddy. And here we are at midnight loading up that car. But I remember it. It was that 1981 Mercury Capri Black Magic Special Edition.
Oh, and with the T-top.
With the T-tops. Oh, yeah. The gold wheels, the whole thing.
And even during the winter, you have them out and you turn the heater all the way on.
100%.
And blast the radio.
Yeah.
Well, don't feel bad. My first car that is actually a special car to me was a 1978 white Cordoba Brougham. And It was my parents that they had handed down to me when I was 16. It had a V8 Hemi in it. And I mean, it was a tank, but it had this awesome 8-track player at the time, which was like really cool. But the cool thing, it had a car bar underneath the glove box. Literally was 6 buttons and a little cup holder. You could stick a cup holder in. And those buttons had tubes that ran underneath the car to the trunk to a cooler with 6 different spaces in it for 6 different beverages.
Oh, heck yeah. They need to bring that back out. Pack of Pall Malls and a couple of drinks.
I had never seen another one since. But yes, I had a car with an 8-track player, with a good stereo, a Hemi, and a car bar.
Oh, my goodness gracious. That is outstanding. That is the best story I've ever heard about cars. We can mic drop it right now. That's it. I'm going to buy me one on Amazon right now.
Exactly. You're going to actually Google it. I had never Googled that. I wonder if it actually shows it.
I wonder if it was a real thing.
No, it actually was. Really.
Back in the day, I remember being in the front seat with my dad drinking his Budweiser and smoking a Pall Mall, Now we're talking years ago. I'm in my 50s, but you know what I mean? Still, things are a lot different these days.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Get into your head a little bit more, as if we haven't already, but we're going to play a little bit of car psychology. If you were a car, what would you be? And more importantly, why?
All right, Ginger, you ready for this one? Your listeners might not be ready for it, but I would be a truck. That's right. Because I'm a hard worker. I'm accountable. And, people always call a friend to help them with something. That would be me. I would be a truck.
Any particular truck?
Nothing fancy. What you see is what you get. And I'd be a 4-wheel drive, though, because I believe that, I'm a hard worker, I'm accountable, and I'm always there to help out.
Oh, I love that. I love that.
Let me ask you, has anybody ever answered that question like that?
I've had some really interesting responses. That mine was a DeLorean, and it wasn't about the fact that it was this iconic thing. It was more about the fact of that it was this great thing, and then it had all this failure, but it's going to make a comeback.
I love that.
Right?
I love that. And listen, even to this day, my trucks have to have a bench seat.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So yeah.
Because the day that I find that lucky somebody, she'd be sitting right next to me, like in the good old days.
The good old days, we could sit right next to 3 on the tree. And yeah, absolutely. Well, I am writing a blank check for an ultimate drive with no limitations. So now have fun with this. If I could wave a magic wand and arrange for you to go on the ultimate drive, whom would it be with and what vehicle would you be in?
Outstanding question. No doubt. Bottom line, me and my daughter. It'd be Route 66. I'm sure I've been on 66 in parts and places, but I would want to do the drive, the whole thing. Just me and my daughter in a vintage car and just really, really have some fun. Yeah. I think it would be so cool to be able to say that, say, hey, listen, take a week off and let's go do this. Let's just hang out.
Who would be driving?
Dad would definitely be driving. But here's the thing. I know that she would want to drive, and I would obviously let her drive because this would be something that she would never, ever, ever forget about. And I think that that's important these days, to not worry about things, but remember to create memories with the people around you. And we're having some fun right now, but it's really important to really, really stop what you're doing right now and listen to this. Remember, it's the memories when you're not here. It's like this podcast. You are putting my legacy out there forever. And I appreciate that, Ginger. I appreciate your listeners, but something that people just forget about so much. They worry about things. They worry about the money. They worry about the big houses and all these things, but they forget about the little things in life. I would rather have a smaller house. I would rather have a smaller bank account and have an incredible relationship with my family and my friends, and be able to do that for strangers, to be able to put a smile on people's faces every single day. So I think that that's important to have those memories. So now I might have to put that on my bucket list that I didn't have an answer for earlier. And that is to maybe take time and go and do something like that with my daughter. I've done a lot of cool things. She's been on the road with me a lot when she was younger, is to possibly not make this just an answer and make this a hypothetical answer, maybe make this tangible and do this. So thank you for that, Ginger. Maybe that's on my bucket list. I want to go down Route 66 with my daughter.
That sounded like a bucket list question to me. I actually grew up on Route 66, ran right through where I grew up.
That's so cool.
And I've actually traveled a lot of it. And there's so many interesting things to see. That definitely needs to be the I'm going to do this thing.
Yeah. Thank you, Ginger.
You're welcome.
You're really getting in my head today.
Yeah. Well, and another thing that you mentioned, it was interesting that you said that just a few minutes ago, was my grandson he listens to me record these podcasts sometimes. And he was listening to me the other night. And he actually gone on and he's like, Grandma, he's like, I hear you record them. I only hear one side. He said, but where are you recording them at? And so I told him to go to the website and look at it, showed him all the different, people and drivers and all that. And this was one of those moments that, like you just said a minute ago, and he was like, Grandma, he's like, I'll always be able to hear your voice. And it was like, oh, that was an aha.
Ginger, I started my podcast years ago, and it was because I was on other people's show, and it was Greg Stump from Off Access Paint that paints a lot of the helmets for the drivers.
Yeah, he grew up right next to the town I did.
Oh, really? Okay. Yeah. So Greg said to me one day, he says, why don't you have your own show? Like, you are just incredible. Like, why don't you have your own show? And I'm like, I'm too busy, this and that. And now, like, I'm sitting in my podcast studio and I think about all the shows that I've done. But you're absolutely right. I've had people that have passed away on the show, and I still hear from their families thanking me that they can go back and listen to Grandma or Grandpa anytime, or somebody's daughter that died of cancer, thanking me for having them on my show, because now it's there forever. So it's not always about us. It's about the legacy that we're leaving behind. And the legacy doesn't have to be this great big thing. It could be something as simple as a conversation with a friend.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. What you do every day, and this leads up to this next question of what are some of the ways you've helped others or given back? You do that all the time. You do that every week. I mean, you do that as a motivational speaker. You do that with your books, with your podcast, and, all these things. You change people's lives. I mean, I know I've listened to you, many times, and there's been that moment of like, gosh, hang on to what he said there. Like, and even today, some things that you've said today, even just like, okay, that's giving back to me.
Thank you. And Ginger, I try to do that every single day. Even when the Motivational Cowboy, Johnny D, has a flippin' terrible day, what I do is go out into the world and make somebody smile. We hear it from Chris Rice all the time, president of College Racing, smile, but it's so true. It's like when I was at Dunkin' Donuts yesterday, my daughter and her fiance are just bought a brand new house and they're putting a new patio in. So I went and got the workers, all coffees and donuts. And, I was just there. I do things not to brag about them. Like, you won't see anything on Facebook. I don't need to tell anybody. I mean, I'm telling you because you asked, but it's such simple things like seeing an older couple so damn cute at Dunkin' Donuts. And they're like, they put a quarter in for the tip and then they're getting ready to pay. And I walked up and I zinged my credit card so they couldn't pay. And they looked at me at first, they were like angry, like, what did he just do? And I was like, hey man, I got that. And it's little things like that people walk away and say, there's still good people in the world. Now, listen, not everybody has money to do those kind of things. But you know what, Ginger? A smile to somebody could mean the world to them, and it don't cost you a dime. Remember that. You may think you know what somebody else is going through, but gosh darn it, you don't.
No, you don't.
You don't.
I don't ever share this, but because you brought it up, I'm going to share a little bit with you, a similar story. One of the things that I've always done, even when I didn't have any money, and we still work hard for our money, we're still, hustling. But even just a couple of months ago, I mean, when I go to a restaurant or something, I have a sixth sense of, I've been a single mom. I've gone through really hard times. I've lived in my car. I've done all those things. So I can spot it. I can almost feel it. Right. And yeah. So sometimes when we're, sitting in a restaurant or, whatever, I'll look around and I'll see an older person that maybe is just sitting by themselves, and that they're just by themselves. They have no one. And my family knows that, this is something that I do, that I will pay for them. Or if I see a single mom, I can just tell it's a single mom. And, the way she orders something for her child, but she doesn't order anything for herself. And, and those are the times that I like, I'll slip money, not only pay the meal, but to give the waitress to give to them.
Yeah.
And someone asked me to, because you see people on the street, homeless signs or whatever. And, and sometimes I'll feel led, to give them money. And people was like, well, why do you do that? That most of them are just going to go to drugs or alcohol. And I said, that's not for me to decide. That's not for me to judge. Maybe that one time that you do that is the turning point. But I'll share with you, a couple months ago, we were sitting in Olive Garden and a lady was by herself. And, I could see she was ordering a very small meal. And, you could tell this isn't something that she normally does. And I paid for her meal. And I don't generally stay to watch or anything like that. That's not what it's about. But I was there with my family. So we were still there. And when she got the bill, and she didn't have anything to pay, and she cried. And I never let anybody know that I do that. But that time I walked over to her and I said, I hope you had a blessed day. And she said, are you the one that paid for it? And I said, yes. And I sit down and I give her a hug. And I don't know this woman, stranger. And she just cried and cried and cried. And she said, you have no idea how much I needed that today. If you can do those things, do them.
100%. I was at Carrabba's last month for Wine Wednesday, and I was there with my ex-wife and her husband. And yes, Ginger, me, my ex-wife, her husband, their two kids, and my daughter, we are one big happy Jerry Springer family.
So it should be.
And it's always been that way. And that's just, so we're out having, they're eating, I'm having a glass of wine with them. And Frankie, just my daughter's stepdad, picks up the tab. And I'm like, well, listen, if he got my stuff, well, then I'm going to buy somebody else's stuff. And there was a guy sitting by himself, right directly in front of me in the booth. I got the bill. Now, again, right, I'm a couple glasses. Well, okay. We had some sangria, those big containers.
Yeah.
So let's just say we had enough of those that I was like, you know what, I'm going to pick up his tab because somebody got mine. Yeah. Right. And I got the bill and I was like, holy crap. He was by himself. He had one meal in front of him, but he must have had two bottles of wine because the bill wasn't cheap.
That's the time that you have to think about your motivation, right? Yeah.
I laughed my butt up. And so I showed, because my daughter knows I do this stuff all the time. But it was like one of those times I got the biggest kick out of it. I'm like, this guy is drinking tonight. And I just paid for all of it. This is great.
He's going to love that. Well, I know that you are getting ready to release your fourth book, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's my next question is, please share a great book you've read, an article or something that you've watched that you believe others can learn from. But I want people to know about your books too.
So, and that's a great question. And I do a lot of reading, but I am so sick of my book. I mean, I don't know how many times, you got to read it. And people don't realize the work that goes into a book. What I did was, I'm a guy that likes to write books that you can get something out of it super fast. A lot of people don't have time to pick up a book and, spend 30 minutes reading a chapter, and including myself. So my books are super simple. This last one called Motivational Journey with Johnny D, the Motivational Cowboy. It's going to be 83 short stories of things that I went through last year. And this is what I mean, Ginger, and to your listeners, is sometimes we're on the road. I'm sitting in the airports. I see things, I hear things, and I start taking those things that I heard or saw, and I would go home and write about it and have a couple glasses of wine, because that's when I do my best writing. And I would write these short stories about things. So that's why it's a 1-year journey with me, and all these things that I learned from just people. And people are going to read this going, shoot, that sounds like my story. Yeah, it probably is. So, and then the one before that is called Wild Cards of Success. And a couple of years ago, I wanted to do something different than to just hand out a business card. So I wanted to do something cool. So I came up with these poker chips that one side has like my face on it. It says Motivational Cowboy. On the other side, it has my logo. So basically, it's kind of like a business card, but I know that it's something that they'll never throw away. And the reason why I made them is, one, that they're different, but two, I get so tired of seeing people bet on others There's nothing wrong with betting on others, but there's a problem when you don't bet on yourself anymore. And I believe that people should look in the mirror every single day and bet on that person instead of going to spend money and betting on other teams and other people. Spend the time and the energy on betting on yourself. So this was like just a coin that people could carry around. Well, it took off because people are now like, they'll send me pictures of my coin in their wallet or in their purse. And they say, when I'm having a bad day, I just look at it and say, I can do this. I need to bet on me. So that's why I wrote the book, Wild Cards of Success. And it's just kind of a blueprint to living the outstanding life. People say, well, how do you do it? Well, gosh darn it, here it is. Here's a book, and it's only 120 pages. Read it, and there's your blueprint. And then the one before that is called Ripping Pages. And what I did was literally every single page you can rip out of the book and share it with somebody. Because how many times have you gotten to a great book and you wanted to tear it out and share it with your husband or your wife or your boyfriend, your girlfriend or a friend? But you can't rip pages out of your book. But Johnny D, the Motivational Cowboy, made a book where you literally can rip these pages out and share them with others.
I love that.
So,
I love that. Yeah. Do you have any final parting thoughts for our listeners as far as like any words of wisdom or advice about life?
Ginger, this is for you and this is for your listeners, and it's called For You. Live each day as if it were your last. Build on the future and not on the past. Reach for the stars, but don't fall down, and get back up with a smile and not a frown. Dream big. There's no room for small. And no matter what, walk proud and tall. Don't wait for things to go your way. Go out and get them forever to stay. Never give up and never let go. Strive to be the best. Then they'll know. They'll know that you become the best that you can be. Believe in yourself. That's all you ever did need. I'm Johnny D, the Motivational Cowboy, telling you, be safe, have fun, and have yourself an outstanding day.
Oh, wow. I'm getting teary. Wow. That's awesome. Yeah, we might each other teary today. I love it. I love it. I love it. Finally, tell us the best way that our listeners can learn more about you.
I appreciate you letting me, Ginger, talk about my stories. And thank you for having me on your show today, first of all. But people can follow me on my website, motivationalcowboy.com. You can find me on X or Twitter, if you still call it that, at MCJohnnyD4. And on everything else, you can follow me at Motivational Cowboy. So pretty easy. Motivational Cowboy. And if you forget, just go to motivationalcowboy.com. It's all on my website.
Listeners, you can find links to everything we've talked about here today at carsyow.com on the Johnny D, the Motivational Cowboy link on the notes page. Johnny, I want to thank you for being so generous with your time and sharing your experiences. And it was wonderful to sit and do storytelling with you and just caught back up again. And I know we haven't seen each other for a while, and I really look forward to catching up again soon.
Well, I tell you what, your listeners are blessed every single week to be able to listen to you and your listeners. I'm just glad to be a part of the show and a part of the ride. So thank you, Ginger.
Thank you. And on that note, until we talk again, I will see you down the road.
Thank you so much for joining us here today on Cars Yeah. Drive on over to carsyeah.com to find today's guest show notes and inspiring automotive fun. Download your free copy of Filler Up. It's an ebook filled with gorgeous photos of fuel filler fun, including quotes from our inspiring automotive enthusiasts. While you're on the website, sign up for weekly blogs and a whole lot more. Download your copy today, and Ginger will see you next time here on Cars Yeah.